All right,
Billy.
let's turn to some exclusive reporting here from NBC. New details about what's being described as an unusual meeting between some of President Trump's top intelligence, diplomatic, and military advisors convened by the president's national security advisor, John Bolton. NBC News has learned, according to 6 current U.S. officials, that Bolton gathered CIA Director Gina Haspel, Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Joe Dunford, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and Director of National Intelligence Dan Coats for a 7 a.m. meeting last week at CIA headquarters. Those officials say national security meetings typically are held in the White House Situation Room, and that it is extremely rare for senior White House officials or cabinet members to attend a meeting at CIA headquarters.
Wow.
Let's bring in one of the reporters on that story, national political reporter for NBC News, Carol Lee. Okay, Carol Lee, fill in the blanks on this if you would. Why was this so significant, and what exactly were they talking about over at CIA headquarters?
Well, we know that it was significant because this is just not how these meetings are typically held. Usually they happen, as you mentioned, in the Situation Room in the White House. There's a secure meeting room. They can review all sorts of very classified and highly sensitive materials there. So it raised some eyebrows because it was held at CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, and this happened on April 29th, early in the morning, and it was led by National Security Advisor John Bolton. And I think that you can't sort of underestimate why him overseeing this meeting has gotten people's attention, because obviously he is an Iran hawk and he has advocated in the past regime change in Iran. So, you know, they wouldn't say exactly what was discussed in this meeting. We were told that it did not have anything to do with the intelligence that led to, a couple days later, the decision to move a carrier into the Persian Gulf because of intelligence that Iran was perhaps going to, told its proxies in the region that it could attack American military members who were in the region. But there were 2 sort of reasons why for some former officials told us this might happen. And one is that sometimes when the CIA wants to brief on a covert operation, they'll do it on their home turf. And that could be, you know, an operation that's already taken place, or an operation that they're looking for some new sort of authorization for. So that's one reason. And then the other reason is there could be some disagreement on intelligence, and this is where it gets a little tricky. Is, you know, former Vice President Dick Cheney used to go to CIA headquarters sometimes to challenge analysts on the intelligence, and so sometimes if there's a disagreement on intelligence, you could have a meeting there.
So, Carol, when a source calls you on something like this, generally or typically or sometimes, it means they have concerns about the meeting. Was there concern about what was discussed inside that meeting? In other words, that something was afoot with Iran from the United States?
I think there's more concern. The concerns are more about, you know, what's the path here? What's the end game? Or is this sort of another step towards a national security advisor, by a national security advisor who wants to go to war with Iran? What does it mean? And so there were a number of questions that people had. It wasn't necessarily, obviously, Iran is a threat and wants to create a lot of mischief in the Middle East, and has its eyes set on Americans, but there's this, the flip side of that is that there's growing concern that this is a White House that's on a march to some sort of military confrontation with Iran, and that brings a whole host of other problems, and that this could be another piece of whatever case they might want to make to that end.
So, Carol, one of the people in that room was Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan. You have some more reporting for us this morning about Patrick Shanahan, although he will be nominated by President Trump to be the defense secretary, not President Trump's first choice, and maybe a round of golf with Lindsey Graham changed that.
Yeah, you know, President Trump deliberated for so long on this that he wound up some of Shanahan's critics, including Lindsey Graham, wound up coming around and just saying, you know, nominate somebody. This has been empty for so long. You have the chairman of the Armed Services Committee in the Senate saying, you know, you can't have an acting title and accomplish anything in this job. You have to just pick somebody. And the president had gone back and forth on this and really was unsure about it, in part because he felt like Shanahan doesn't sort of, you know, act the part of defense secretary. He doesn't have a very strong presence, in person, and perhaps more importantly for President Trump on television. And so he was really unsure, but also maybe didn't want to pull him out because he was already there. And so this has been weeks, and finally he decided to go with it yesterday.
All right, Carol Lee, thank you very much. And
Thanks, guys.
Still ahead on Morning Joe, in the words of Rudy Giuliani, we're not meddling in an election, we're meddling in an investigation. The president's lawyer says the quiet part out loud
Joe, what time
about
is that?
his
He does say the
upcoming-
quiet part out, Tab.
It's unbelievable.
We're not obstructing traffic.
Have another
We're
one.
obstructing justice.
Jeez, it's not even 4 o'clock yet. His upcoming trip
Lord.
to Ukraine to poke into a story
Wait, was
involving...
that quote, do we know, was that quote after 6 o'clock?
No,
You know what
it
time
doesn't
that
matter,
quote might have come. No,
honestly.
it actually does with Rudy.
Anyhow.
It's always cocktail hour somewhere in the room.
I gotta ask Joe,
What difference does the time of day make for?
Well, let's get the other quote. I placed that
poking
last
into
quote at
something
like
with Joe Biden's son.
6:15.
As Giuliani tells the New York Times, there's nothing illegal about it. Somebody could say it's improper. You're watching Morning Joe.
It's more like a 6:45.
We'll be right back.
Always cocktail hour somewhere.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.